Now children, let us start with the original story, the Chinese statue. Jeffrey Archer. The little Chinese statue was the next item to come under the auctioneer's hammer. Auctioneer's hammer means whoever was going to whatever was going to be auctioned at the auction scene. The next thing which was going to be auctioned, about which the auctioneer was going to say, was this statue. Lot 103 caused those quiet murmurings that always precede the sale of masterpiece. Like when the lot number of this Chinese statue was announced, that is, the lot number of the statue was 103, and then just then when it was announced, just then people started murmuring about it to each other. The auctioneer's assistant held up the delicate piece of ivory for the packed audience to admire, while the auctioneer glanced around the room to be sure he knew where the serious bidders were seated. Now, the auctioneer, the person who was auctioning the statue, the person who was auctioning the statue, he was actually auctioning, and he was looking around the room in which the auction was taking place to see where actually the serious bidders, actually the serious buyers who wished to buy the statue were. And then the person who then there was an assistant who was holding that statue with him, who was holding the statue with him. I studied my catalog and read the detailed description of the piece. Just then the person read the catalog, the person who is actually sitting in the auction scene, the person who is going to narrate the story. He is saying that I was sitting in the auction room and I was reading the catalog. Catalog means a book or a pamphlet which provides complete information in summary of any information about anything, that is known as catalog. So I studied my catalog and read the detailed description of the piece and what was known of its history. What was the history of the Chinese statue, from where it had come to this auction scene? Everything was mentioned in the catalog, and this person who was sitting in that room where the auction was taking place, he was going through it. He was going through the catalog in which the mention was made about the Chinese statue and from where it had come into existence. The statue had been purchased in Ha-Li-Chuan in 1871 and was referred to as Sotheby's quantity, described as a property of a gentleman. Now see, this was written in the catalog. The statue was purchased by in Ha-Li-Chuan. Ha-Li-Chuan is a place in China. In 1871 it was purchased and it was referred to as a property of some gentleman, usually meaning that some member of the aristocracy did not wish to admit that he was having to sell off one of the family's heirlooms. So now here we come to know that the Chinese statue about which the auction is taking place, it was not mentioned to whom did it belong, but it was mentioned that it belonged to some gentleman. And why it was not mentioned to whom did it belong? Because the gentleman who wished to sell it belonged to some aristocratic family, and that gentleman did not wanted his name to be revealed, and he did not wanted people to know that he had to sell this heirloom. Heirloom means something which passes on from one generation to the other, as something which is which passes on from one generation to the other as a family property, that is known as heirloom. So is this much clear to all of you? Is this much clear?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if it is clear, give thumbs up. In the chat box, give thumbs up. Only this many? Okay. Okay, thank you children, thank you. Let's continue. I wondered if that was the case on this occasion and decided to do some research to discover who had caused the little Chinese statue to find its way into the auction room on Thursday morning over 100 years later. And just then the person who is narrating the story, he says that once I came to know that the person who was actually the owner of the statue, who had brought this statue to the auction place, did not wish his name to be revealed. After 100 years later, I wondered, and I suddenly thought of collecting the information about the person who has actually brought this Chinese statue to the auction room. Lot number 103 declared the auctioneer. The auctioneer who was actually bidding for the statue, he had declared lot number 103. What am I bid for the magnificent example of? From here, till this place, the person who was sitting in the auction room, he has described the incident, whatever took place on that day when the auction was taking place. From this place onwards, from the last paragraph of the first page, that is page number 55, we are taken to another place. Where we are going to see how the journey of the Chinese statue started. Sir Alexander Heathcote, as well as being a gentleman, was an exact man. Sir Alexander Heathcote, he was a gentleman as well as he was an exact man. That is, the person who is always up to the point. That is, does not beat around the bush. The person who is up to point is known as exact man. He was exactly 6 foot 3¼ inches tall. 3¼ inches. We don't take into account quarter inches, but he was such an exact man that his height is also mentioned exactly what it was. 6 foot 3¼ inches tall. Rose at 7 o'clock every morning. This man was so much exact in his personality that he even got up at 7 a.m. in the morning itself daily. Joined the wife at breakfast to eat one boiled egg. See the exactness. The exactness in his personality is there. That is why he got up at 7 and he joined his wife for the breakfast, where he had same breakfast daily. That is, one boiled egg cooked for precisely 4 minutes, and that boiled egg was cooked precisely exactly for 4 minutes. Precisely means exactly, accurately, for 4 minutes only, and that boiled egg only he used to have. Sorry children, some network issue was there. Boiled egg, which was this gentleman Alexander Heathcote, he used to have the boiled egg which was cooked precisely for 4 minutes only, and then apart from that he used to have 2 pieces of toast with 1 spoonful of Cooper's marmalade and drink 1 cup of China tea. This gentleman used to have 2 slices, exactly 2 slices, not more nor less. That is what all these things describes his exactness. Exactness means his preciseness, his accuracy. He is described as an accurate man. He would then take a hackney carriage from his home in Cadogan Gardens at exactly 8:20 and arrive at Foreign Office at promptly 8:59, returning home on the stroke of 6 o'clock. This is how he came to his office. That is the exact time he left his home. That is 8:20, and 8:59 he reached his office, and he left his office exactly at 6 o'clock in the evening. Sir Alexander had been exact from an early age. This man was very accurate, was very precise since his early age, since his initial days. As became the son of a general, as say he had acquired this exactness in him just when he became the son of a general. But unlike his father, he chose to serve his queen in the diplomatic service. Excuse me, children. His father, the father of Sir Alexander Heathcote, was a general, but he did not go in that military services. Rather, he joined diplomatic services and he wanted to serve the queen. Another exacting calling means this service also required a perfect person. This service was also a perfect service. That is why he is called a perfect man. Excuse me, children. He progressed from a shared desk at the Foreign Office at Whitehall to third secretary in Calcutta, to second secretary in Vienna, to first secretary in Rome, to deputy ambassador in Washington, and finally to minister in Peking. This is how he progressed in his post. He had joined as a receptionist and then he gradually graduated to a minister when he was appointed as a minister in Peking. He was delighted when Mr. Gladstone invited him to represent the government in China, as he was delighted when Mr. Gladstone had invited him to represent the government in China, as he had for some considerable time taken more than an amateur interest in the art of Ming Dynasty. Now, how he came to China? He was invited as a British ambassador to China by Mr. Gladstone, and he was very much pleased because he was very much interested in Chinese art and architecture. That is why when he was called to China as an ambassador, he was very happy. The crowning appointment in his distinguished career would afford him what until then he would have considered impossible: an opportunity to observe in their natural habitat some of the great statues. So China was famous for its art and architecture. So this man, Alexander Heathcote, he had just read about Chinese statue, about Chinese art and architecture. But then once he was appointed as the ambassador to British ambassador to China, then he got the opportunity to actually view Chinese art and architecture from very close. From very close, he got the opportunity to have view of Chinese art and architecture. Sorry, children, there was some connectivity issue. The connection was dropped. Now, it is written that this man, Alexander Heathcote, he was posted to China, and thus when he was posted to China, he was very happy because until then he had read about Chinese art and architecture in books only, and now he might have got the opportunity to view Chinese art and architecture from very close quarters. That is why he was very happy. When Sir Alexander Heathcote arrived in Peking after a journey by sea and land that took his party nearly 2 months, the story has taken place in that time where it was not possible to travel only through land and air. Rather, sea journey was also done during those times. So this man, Sir Alexander Heathcote, he actually took up the journey, and he had to cover some part of the journey in sea and some part on land, and by doing so, it took him and the member of his crew almost 2 months to reach to Peking. He presented his seals patent to the Emperor Zhuyi and a personal letter for her private reading from Queen Victoria. Now, he presented a letter which was given to the emperor he along with him he had brought a letter which was given by Queen Victoria, and that was to be presented to Zhou He, who was actually Chinese king at that time, and that letter was to be read personally by Queen Victoria. The empress, dressed from head to toe in white and gold, received her new ambassador in the throne room of the imperial palace. Now this empress, the Queen Victoria, she was dressed in white color, and then as Sir Alexander Heathcote reached his palace, she welcomed her ambassador from China in imperial palace. She read the letter from British monarch while Sir Alexander remained standing to attention. She read the letter that was sent to him from British monarch, that is, she read the letter from the British monarch while Sir Alexander remained standing to attention. While she was reading the letter, Sir Alexander Heathcote, he stood in attention. Her Imperial Highness revealed nothing of its contents to the new minister, only wishing him a successful term of office in his appointment. She then moved her lips slightly up at the corners, which Alexander judged correctly to mean that the audience had come to an end. As he was conducted back through the great halls of the Imperial Palace by Mandarin is a minister who accompanies a foreign ambassador. Mandarin is a minister who accompanies a foreign ambassador. In the long court dress of black and gold, Sir Alexander walked as slowly as possible, taking in the magnificent collection of ivory and jade statues, which taking in means looking at those statues which were there in the imperial palace. Just when he was wished a good term in his service, when he walked out of the imperial palace, he was taking a view of all the statues which were lying there, all the ivory statues which were lying there, and which were scattered casually around the building, much in a way Cellini and Michelangelo today light stacked against each other in Florence. And these statues were similarly these statues were lying in a similar way, just as the statues of Michelangelo and Cellini lie against each other, opposite to each other in Florence. As his ministerial appointment was only for 3 years, Sir Alexander took no leave, as he was appointed as a minister in China, as an ambassador in China, only for three years. So during that tenure, Sir Alexander did not take any leave. But preferred to use his time to put the embassy behind him and travel on horseback into the outlying districts to learn more about the country and its people. Now Sir Alexander Heathcote, instead of paying attention to the job that he was offered, he actually put it aside and decided that he will travel on horseback to every nooks and corner of China, and he will explore more about Chinese art and architecture. On these trips, he was always accompanied by a Mandarin. On these trips, whenever he took journey to those places to visit, to know more about Chinese art and architecture, on his journey, he was always accompanied by a Mandarin, means a helper or a minister from the palace staff, from the Queen's palace, who acted as interpreter and guide, acted as his interpreter and his guide. Now children, on page number 61, first paragraph, we'll stop here and let's discuss what we have already covered today, and then we will continue in the next session. Okay.